I have looked at that. Here, and you guys just kind of the
I can see how.
Don't we look at it on?
How it's spoiled, especially if something.
Yeah, because we have to.
Expecting that.
If it was
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if after what,
She's okay.
There,
Great.
17 and 18.
that's the county,
Hey,
So Carol, executive director.
then can be taken back to the.
Can we do my last one? I'll pick up right now. I like that. I
I
like
know we have
that.
next Friday.
Yeah, yeah, and that will,
no,
because he actually,
no shame in your game, so
yeah, yeah.
you carry on.
All right, so get that as an outcome.
Okay,
My.
cool, okay, all right. How are you all doing? Hi, Marcia.
All right, everybody, sorry,
See you.
are we missing here?
I so respect you guys that are.
No, I don't know why I never did. Maybe feel bad.
You know, I do right.
Are we all here?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so we've got everybody on the, whatchamacallit? Sorry.
Kristen and Mark are both on Zoom, and then everyone else, I don't think that was those are out.
There we go.
Okay, awesome. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks for
Thank
clarification.
you very much. Welcome, everyone, to the Regional Housing Authority for Alliance's, February, what is today? 9th, 2023 meeting, and, let's do an introduction and roll call. I'm Kim Baxter, I'm the chair and also a Durango City Councilor. JJ?
My name is JJ Desrosiers. I work for the Economic Development Alliance, and my role here is basically board administrator.
Sarah Tober with the Economic Development Alliance, the Housing Strategy Manager.
Michael French, Executive Director, La Plata Economic Development
All
Alliance.
right, let's go up onto the screen since that's next there, Mark.
Good afternoon, Mark Garcia, Interim Town Manager, Town of Ignacio. Good to see you all.
Kristen?
Kristen Dallison, Mayor Pro Tem Bayfield, Colorado. Good afternoon.
Hi. Nicole?
Hello, Nicole Killian, Town of Bayfield.
Excellent. Rachel?
Rachel Taylor Saji, Habitat for Humanity of La Plata County.
Thanks for being here. Waylon?
Waylon Ryan, Sustainability and Policy Manager with Visit Durango. Thank you.
Okay, Eva, on to the table, I think. Oh, Michelle, sorry, Michelle, I missed you.
No problem. I'm Michelle Fury with the La Plata Economic Development Alliance.
Eva Henson, Housing Innovation Manager, City of Durango.
Pat Vaughn, member at large.
Marcia Barnhart, No Plata County Commissioner.
Clark Craig, mayor of Ignacio.
Katie Sickles, Town Manager, Bayfield.
Excellent. And our other public here?
Donna Rowe, neighbors in Need Alliance. Caroline Kinzer, neighbors in Need Alliance. Lori Weber.
Password.
And welcome to all the public. Thank you for being here. We will get to public comment next. Are there any perceived or actual conflicts of interest for the board? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on from there. Public comment. Is there anyone in the room who would like to make a public comment? You're just here to listen. Okay, how about on Zoom? Nope, okay. Approval of agenda. Everybody have a chance to look that over? Any changes?
Yeah, actually, Madam Chair, in light of some recent things, we'd like to remove bank signers, decision item G1 from the agenda. Our accountant has recently come up with some new solutions that will hopefully make that not an issue.
Oh, okay. All righty, we can do that, and you'll let us know what comes out of that.
Yes, of course.
Okay, excellent, great. So is there a motion to approve the agenda with the exception? Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. So now we're on to the consent agenda, and an approval of the consent agenda, which is the January minutes and the December financial statements.
I'm sure I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? righty. Alliance updates. So the first one we have is the Catalyst Fund update. Ms. French.
We had a Catalyst Fund committee meeting this week. It was an orientation led by Project Moxie. Catalyst Fund had good representation, including one of the foundations that we are courting. So that's a great news. The member from the Alliance Board is Kent Curtis, and he is representing not only Alliance, but also First Southwest Bank and the CDFI fund, which is, I think, fantastic. Jason Ports, who is...
You might want to change the acronym of the CDFI fund so people know the name of it.
Community Development Financial Institution.
Great, thank
There you go. That's a designation that they have as a not-for-profit that First Southwest Bank has, which I think is the only one in Colorado, or at least...
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, a really unique certification. Jason Ports, who is the market president for Bank of Colorado, was also in attendance, representing the foundation. And Eva Henson, help me out with Nicole, Killian, Bayfield,
And
Mark Garcia, Ignacio, and we're missing one.
We might have not have had them.
Adam
Oh,
Rogers.
yeah.
Adam
We
Rogers.
did,
Oh,
we had Adam Rogers.
Oh, great.
Okay, super.
So, and Adam Rogers is the finance director for the county. So we had a fantastic orientation with that board. Basically, it was a quick summary of the objective of the Catalyst Fund, going back to the 3-year investment strategy, workforce housing investment strategy, referred back to that quite a bit in terms of the initial objective, created some potential parameters around the committee. Conflicts of interest were discussed, so all of the formal aspects of a committee like that. Got into some discussion around what a rubric might look like, took some sentiment from the group in terms of how to fund and what to fund. So in other words, tiers. There was some discussion around three tiers, 25, 50, and 75K as sort of initial tiers. So there was some conversation around whether the 25 was too small. But after hearing from the committee, it sounded like the committee wanted that to stay in place for some quick and demonstrative needs that some of these projects that are in play may have. The other comment that came from Nicole was to make sure that we don't dilute. So in other words, we don't look for 25K grants, but we're looking for larger grants with larger impact. So the next steps are to create the rubric. That committee will meet again in probably 4 weeks' time, is my guess, and start to look at a rubric in a little bit more concrete fashion. I think the objective is to start getting LOIs from projects, workforce housing projects, by March. And the reason that they want to do that is to get in line on some potential grant funding. And so the faster that they can get some of this, the better. Eva, Nicole, Mark, did I miss anything? Is that a decent summary?
You did provide some direction to Jen, or a recommendation to maybe work with Bayfield, Durango, Ignacio on a project that we all seem to have queued up to run through the processes that we're talking about.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. That is a next step as well, is to create some case studies and use a project from Eva, use a project from Mark, and use a project from Nicole that is a potential project, but a really strong case study for us to create and pressure test a rubric, which is kind of smart to have a real life project and put it through the paces. Yeah, I was really pleased that Sarah was able to coordinate all this as fast as she did so that we could get it done before this board meeting and be able to report on this. It wasn't helpful to some people's schedules, and we recognize that, but we checked the giant box, and very proud of that. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get online, so I missed the part about the foundation. Are you feeling pretty good about that? Like you're courting
Two foundations.
How are you feeling, or can you say?
You know, they're both still out a bit.
Okay.
One of them is significantly larger than the other by probably 5 to 10x. And the funding that the second foundation is relying on is getting pushed to early summer. They have an executive meeting at the end of February where they will vote. And so we don't have to wait for the monies to become available for a commitment. So hopefully at this next board meeting, we can talk a little bit more about it and actually talk about potential funds.
Excellent. I just want to mention that Elizabeth Stefan is going to say hi. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you want to color to that or fill anything in on that?
I think the only other thing that I would add to that is that there is going to be sort of a policy subcommittee where Eva, Mark, and Nicole are all going to be getting together so that we can make sure that there's some consistency and expectations with some of these projects regionally. So I think that could be a really exciting thing that comes out of it.
That's a good idea. Did you want to make a public comment, Elizabeth, by any chance? Okay. All right, so are you?
That's it, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you.
Fund balance policy findings and recommendations, Sarah.
So at this time, I don't really have any findings and recommendations to show, but more so a place on the agenda to ensure that I am properly researching this for next meeting. This was something that was brought up, and we talked about having some best practices from other regional housing authorities. And I'm just here to take any more information from the board before coming back with the presentation.
Does anybody have any thoughts or comments on that? Website and logo updates. Sarah, again.
Yes. So if you look in your packet, we do have some progress on a website layout and some potential logos. We feel as though this refresh will be really nice marked view chapter for the Regional Housing Alliance. We have 4 different logos here that try to embody what is going on throughout the region with Plata County. And so we have on the top left, we have one that's kind of mountain, kind of building potentially, to help people to understand what the RHA is. And to the right, we have RHA in the little Plata County outline. And then bottom left is, again, kind of that mountain cornerstone feel to it as well. And then the bottom right, the RHA with the interlocked boxes, kind of, again, bringing in that color schematic from the different entities that comprise the RHA and kind of bringing that building cornerstone feel to it as well.
I move we use the one on the top left. I'll just get it out there. I second that.
Me too.
No, I like that one too.
So discussion. One of my questions is, what does the orange and what does the black represent? Where did you come from? How did you come up with the colors?
I actually expected the colors to be blue and green,
Yes.
representing La Plata County, City of Durango, Ignacio, and Bayfield that use those colors in their, I don't know if that got lost in translation, but
Yeah.
we can easily change the color palette.
Can you put the invitation to this meeting up on the, can you share that screen?
The invitation to the meeting or the?
Yeah, the invitation to the meeting. You sent it to us with the packet?
Oh, yes, of course.
That would be great. And there's a reason for my nab.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess we can apply a color palette to any one of these. I'm not concerned at all. As a matter of fact, the designer is really quick, like we can have that to you guys tomorrow. And then the website is, these layouts are not what the actual layout would look like. This is simply, place markers for content. In other words, we will have to go back to SIPA's layout, use their layouts, and modify them. But this is kind of the big building blocks of content that we felt needed to. So what we did is create a tree, top-line navigation, and from that tree, what did content need to look like? And that's sort of what created this building block is more so what it is as opposed to website design.
Different attachment than the agenda. Yes,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
exactly what it is.
yes, okay,
The
sorry.
one that you posted.
The public posting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Apologies.
that's gotcha. That sounds good. Question, and I think I'm recalling from last time, is this gonna be used with the words? Always, so like instead of saying RHA and then under Regional Housing Alliance, so that, because what if somebody doesn't know what RHA
What
is?
RHA stands for.
Yeah, what does RHA stand
Yeah,
for?
once we picked a logo, there'll be a horizontal or vertical.
All right, okay.
And so we'll ensure that we have one that has the actual regional housing alliance there.
The reason I agree with you strongly is that I think that, of course, I'm biased to the one on the right, because it's La Plata County, but I don't think that is, as reflective of the municipalities. I love the, what are these called? You're in the building.
Chevrons, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chevrons, and they look like you're using it to build, to square up, beams or something. But I really like that one, yeah, housing in mountains.
So one of the things I really liked about this was the blues and greens. Because the feeling that you get looking at this is much more like home, right? Orange and black are, and I know you didn't do that intentionally.
And it was the
Yeah,
last
it
logo.
went from the old logo.
I know.
Now I get what he
I don't
did.
know if you
Yeah.
did it,
He took it
but
from
they're very off-putting, they're very harsh, and they're very, regimented, and, like you're gonna have to go through a lot of red tape to get through this. I don't want us to be seen that way, so if I would love to see us, I agree with you, Mark, this is my favorite one out of them. But not the colors.
Right. They're my high school Cortez Panthers colors.
Yeah, it does look like Halloween.
It doesn't help at all.
Yeah, he took it from the old,
Yeah.
the old one and just transposed it.
Right.
That's not a problem. We'll
Okay, good.
Well,
modify
so,
that.
then I would ask that you would amend, friendly amendment to your motion for the blues and greens in this.
Sure. So moved as stated.
And the resecond of that. Any further discussion? No, I think this is great, I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too.
I know it seems like it's, just stuff, but it actually is the first step to having an identity that people recognize, so thank you very much for that.
Nice to know.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great.
Good job, guys.
Auto payments, JJ.
Yes, sorry. Sorry. This goes along with the reason that we needed to strike that one decision item from the record, and I might refer to Sarah on a couple of these things as well. So we have been having kind of a heck of a time running checks around to people, especially with Mark, our treasurer, being all the way out in Ignacio. that have created a couple issues. So our accountant, Carolyn, is working on some solutions to that for a bank account with TBK. They have some bill pay, auto payment options that we are exploring right now. So we'll primarily be working with Mark and Marcia on that. I just want to make the whole board aware that it's an option that we're pursuing. What it sounds like it'll work is that our accountant Carolyn, anytime she needs to make a payment through TBK's bill pay system, that she'll just have to receive email permission from the two signatures if it's above 2,000 as per our policies, or just the one if it's below. So that is what the intended is right now. We're still working on the kinks, so it's entirely possible that just will fail horribly, and we'll have to rethink that, but that is the plan right now.
That was, standard operating procedure from 30 years ago, is that the authority, you had to sign your purchase order, or you had to sign whatever it was, and then check cut and signed by whoever, or other signed. So I don't see any reason why that couldn't work.
My only suggestion, based on something that happened many, many, many years ago that wasn't great, is on the email, make sure in the subject line you put what you're paying for and the invoice number.
So you can search.
Yeah, because I had an issue with a group where people were honestly doing something that was nefarious because they were able, not that we would ever think you would do that, but it's just good, check them out.
Make it clear.
Say, this is the email I'm responding to, so,
Right.
yeah. So you don't have to check your Outlook for it, but I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, so we'll absolutely talk to our accountant and make sure she was aware of that. And then, yeah, that is what we're attempting to do right now. Just trying to figure out how we can streamline as many processes as we can.
That's a great idea.
Not have to drive a check out to Ignacio every couple of days.
Is there anyone who doesn't? Is there anyone who doesn't think that's a good idea or has some comments about it otherwise? Okay.
I do, if I may just pipe in working with Carolyn on gaining access to TBK for online banking. She was talking about the ability to make fixed monthly online payments that are budgeted. And I think that's a good idea, like the administration fees to the Economic Development Alliance, the rent, some of our fixed monthly costs. I think we should go ahead and authorize her to do those online and do those monthly.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think an email listing all of those and their respective amounts, again, would go to you and to Marcia for approval of that. And then if any of those amounts had to change, they'd have to send out another email about that. Is that? Okay.
That sounds good. JJ, can you ask Carolyn to prepare that list and have Marcia and I approve that, please?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
All right, now we're on to decision items. So officers' elections. So it looks like in January we were supposed to have done that and we totally spent my apologies on that, but transitions. We have either 3 or 4 positions available depending on how we want to handle that. We have the chair or the president, the co-chair or the vice president, and secretary and treasurer. We've done secretary treasurer together. Is that how we've kind of managed that?
That's actually the format.
I think so.
I think Mark is the secretary and treasurer. Is that your understanding, Mark?
At least treasure. I can't even read my own handwriting.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It is entirely possible, again, having not been there, I couldn't find definitive things on this. Both treasurer and secretary are not required to be board members, so it's entirely possible with your guys' previous arrangement with Region 9, that one of their employees was designated as secretary.
Which would be like you.
Yes, that is essentially right.
Well, I think that makes perfect sense to have the alliance be our secretary. Whoever's sitting in that chair at the time is matter to me, but how does everybody feel about that? I know we'd have to make a motion.
I'm good with that, yeah.
Does someone want to make a motion about that?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? So the motion, if I may paraphrase you, Pat, besides so moved, just for the record, would be that the Economic Alliance would be our secretary position, and whoever, probably JJ in most cases, would be the actual person doing that.
Yes.
So All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, just delay on the aye. Okay, excellent, thank you. So now we're on to chair, or president, I don't know which one we call it, president, vice president, and treasurer.
I'll make a nomination.
Well, I just wanted, for the record, I just want to say that as I'm chair, Mark Porter Norton is vice chair, and Mark is the treasurer. So that's the current status. I am leaving in April, so April 18th is my last day as a city councilor, halfway through the city council meeting. So I don't think I would be an appropriate nomination for anything, just so you know, I'm stepping back, obviously, and so that would be, yeah.
Well, I would like to, I didn't talk to him about this ahead of time, but I'd like to nominate Pat
As?
as the president. And the reason, I have many reasons, but, I am not able to step up even if somebody asked me to. I'm happy to be vice. If you're out of town, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to sign checks or whatever. Or I also thought, if you're interested, Clark. Yeah, okay. I don't know, not to put you on the spot, I'm just gonna call you, of course, I didn't have time, but, yeah, I just think you've been a great asset. I think honestly, I mean, I think it's been great having, you know, Cameron do it, but I think you are in at large and, you know, thus don't represent any of the entities, even though I don't think that's kind of a problem all among us, but if you would do it, we would be lucky to have your skills.
I'm comfortable and happy doing it if that's the desire of the rest of the board members. If not, that's fine too. You know, I don't take umbrage either way, so.
So can we close nominations and just vote on this?
Well, would you like to?
Well, you've been really good at that, so go for it.
Would you like to actually make a nominating motion?
Yeah, I would like to nominate Patrick Vaughn as the president of the RHA.
Second.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Well, you're supposed to vote for yourself, it shows confidence. All right, well, congratulations, and that I'm guessing will take effect at the end of this meeting rather than right this moment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you, welcome, and if you have any questions, I'm here for you. All right, so now we have vice chair.
I would nominate Marcia.
Excellent.
I accept.
Is that a second? Yes, okay.
Anybody else interested? Here. It's actually a super easy job, I hate to say, but it is, yeah.
Any discussion?
Is that term, do we have terms?
They're an annual term.
They're an annual term.
Yeah.
Every January, we're supposed to appoint. And I just happened to be lucky enough to get reelected last January.
You did too, Bayfield.
Thank you, everyone. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope, okay, great. Welcome, everybody, thank you. So now we're moving on to discussion and updates, Prop 102.
Treasurer.
Oh, we've got treasurer.
Madam Chair, I would nominate Mark Garcia as treasurer.
I would second that.
Yes. Mark, are you interested in that position?
I will accept that nomination. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, I'm catching that one. All right, so now on to Prop 123, Eva Henson.
Prop 123, lots of information coming down the pipeline. Mark and I and Nicole have sort of been, I think, trying to stay up on this the best that we can. I think I sent some information out to both of you on a flurry probably last night. And part of this is just, there's not a clearinghouse for Prop 123 to understand accurately what it's going to look like. And so in the last week or so, CML, Colorado Municipal League, put out their newsletter, middle of January, maybe end of January, I think, give or take, had sort of an overview of, here's kind of what it looks like. The municipalities, be on point, because there are some things that you will need to do come November 2023. Well, what are those things?
And how do we prepare?
And how do we prepare? And then Division of Housing put out their newsletter and their issue at the end of last week with Prop 123 Draft Local Baseline Reference Data Release. And I thought, well, where are they getting this information from, right? But I've reached out to the state. I've been told 3 different people and been kind of passed around of who is the right person to go to. I look forward to finding that out and sharing it with our entity as well. They put out some high-level information around, is the increasing your inventory, this is what I asked the state, is increasing your inventory by baseline of 3% at a minimum on...
Well, that's one of the requirements, right?
Right,
Okay.
that's one of the requirements.
Madam Chair, increasing the baseline of what by 3%?
That's right. That's exactly how I wanted to That was exactly how I wanted to say. Thank you for helping me finish that. Yes, yes.
The ballot language said increasing your supply of affordable housing, right?
That's correct.
And so then it's the what is we get into defining it, which is why we're in rulemaking.
Is it 3% of
What?
complete inventory or 3% of existing
Affordable
Affordable housing.
percentage?
Big
That's the
question.
question.
That's exactly how I
And that's
wanted
a
it to say.
huge discrepancy.
It is.
And then if it's from affordable housing, how are you defining that? And what year? Does it count if something was built in 1970 that's affordable? So, okay, I interrupted you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but that's kind of what we've all been wondering. And so through the Division of Housing's recent newsletter, they're anticipating helping municipalities through this process. Now, bandwidth and capacity, I don't know what that looks like for the Division of Housing. And it says that they'll be contacting each municipality to start to take an inventory. Can you imagine? That's why it's discussion right now. I didn't kind of come into this with like an understanding to share with us. It was more of I'm encapsulating all of the information that I can to disseminate so that we have accurate information for our municipalities to try and move this forward. But as they put it here, it's an interesting and complex task to take on in their newsletter. It is, because like we've all said, whose records, what resource are you going to use to accurately determine and prove and verify, if that is a process? I would hope that it would be, in conjunction with each municipality to build a database of this information. By November of 2023, it's anticipated that each municipality is supposed to have a efficient and pipeline of ways to efficiently move projects through a pipeline, unknown, of defining and clarifying what those projects need to be and exist, like how much percentage of an affordable unit, define affordability, what qualifies it, in order to fast track something through. They're anticipating possibly a 90-day get it through the pipeline to approval process.
Yeah.
Lots of flurrying. I've asked the state as well, who can we send information to or a letter or something to help the legislative process with input or something from municipalities. So I look forward to bringing more back if you would like me to sort of lead this for Prop 123 for our county, if that is helpful. Mark and Nicole, any other, I know we've had a lot of emails. Nicole, do you have anything that you wanted to share or talk about?
I don't. I think you've covered some of the same things I'm questioning, and I'm good.
Yeah, it's the questioning. It's wanting some certainty to understand how do we move forward. Because no municipality wants to take heavy lifting of like processes, efficiencies without really understanding what does that mean.
Right. You'd like to commit to one.
Yeah, to commit.
I'm sorry, I jumped in front of you.
That's right. Madam Chair, is it just municipalities or is the county a part of this as well?
The county.
We are.
Okay.
Yes, so county, but county under state.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that they have in here though, this measure does not require local governments to participate. They can choose not to engage in the fund if they so desire.
I have a question, just on process. So they're in rulemaking and the legislature's doing that. Do we know, and when did you say the deadline is by which we can get input, and will we get a set of rules?
That's what I asked the state to
Oh, that's what
provide
you're
to
asking,
me.
okay. All
Yes,
right. Like,
is
what's
there,
the deadline?
is there a deadline through the rulemaking process that would allow folks to provide input and feedback? So that's partly what I'd like to be able to share, at least with Mark and Nicole in the county, so that if we need to act quickly, to send something in, we could potentially. I don't have a sense of timing right now from the state, unless you guys have.
Mark, did you have your hand up with a thought?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Eva, for stepping up and wanting to do this for us. There's obviously a lot going on here. We talked about this during the Catalyst Fund, and I think it's something that really needs to be fleshed out more. I asked CML to contact me so I can talk about my concerns, and they're with NIMBYism. You know, we've experienced it, and I think as we try to fast track some of these projects, the community may not be ready for that. So that puts a lot of pressure on our organizations to get these projects through. But you know, it could be a big roadblock if we get a lot of pushback from our communities as we're trying to fast track affordable housing projects. And I think, you know, maybe some guidance on that, or, you know, some ability to navigate that might be helpful in the future. But thanks for doing it, Eva, helping us with all this information and data.
Well, and I think one of the things that we were talking about, even at the Catalyst meeting collectively, is I see this as an opportunity for us to align and really forward, proactively get ourselves in a place that we're all not trying to navigate and recreate and invent and follow up with regulations and policy. Could the city potentially help lead this and inform the others so that we are in sync in this area to receive those funds? And so that's kind of what we were talking about. And I certainly envision, the city can help take that lead and we can guide it. And again, you guys would be approving what you would see fit, because I know you guys don't have zoning and some other things, but happy to help lead that effort.
That would be great. I mean, because it's not like we're asking you to take on extra work.
Right.
Because what you'd have to be doing anyway.
This is what I'd have to be.
Yeah.
Right, and so as kind of a reporting out to us, I think that would be a great place for you to. Okay.
Maybe an idea to further that is maybe it becomes an authority, an authority policy that we all buy into. We're all members of the authority. So what if we come up with a regional affordable housing policy that we all buy into, and our development community goes through one policy, even though it's in the town of Bayfield or city of Durango, et cetera. Just a thought, and it might help us all, but obviously we have to think out of the box on this, so.
Yeah.
Well, and
You're
I
right.
think, Mark, that ties into some of the conversations that you and I and Nicole have had, and we were having with Mike Seacrest around some consistencies with the deed restrictions and other contractual government, mechanisms, contracts, those types of things, so that there is more of a centralization when it comes to when those units are being produced, that we can centrally say, here's how we're administering these as well. And then I think to the community, does there become some sense of a clearinghouse for where they can find this product, either rental or ownership? And then when those resales or units are becoming vacant again and occupiable again, we start to really synergy for the community, how to find the units, how to find where these are at. And again, maybe that's just those building blocks that we're talking about,
Right.
of where we're going.
No, I agree, and if I just may, in the prior year and more, as an authority, we were trying to figure out what it is we wanted to accomplish. And maybe this is it, maybe this legislation is going to help us focus our work, and we come up with regional policy, which extends all the way out to deed restrictions and home ownership and rental opportunities in our communities. So who knows? Maybe this might help us in the long run.
Well, go ahead, Mark.
Couple thoughts I had. One is, what I would want to know, we are in the process of doing a national search for a community development director. Once that person gets on board, one of their first tasks is scrub our code, what can we do better for affordable housing? There's no way that's going to happen in 3 months so part of it, I wonder with the phasing, like we certainly wouldn't want to hold anybody else up. Like if your code's working and you can do the 3 months and you can measure, then you ought to be able to go after 123 funding. So part of it is there going to be this hard and fast deadline that all governments have to comply? Or is it that there's a deadline that once you can comply, that I would hope it's that way, then you could get, Prop 123 funding. So question A, I love the idea of common policy, and it's something that I think Shaq Powers is hired to do for Region 9. I think one of his ideas, now I do think he's spreading his time probably more in some of the communities that don't have the housing capacity, but if you remember, Region 9 hired him to do exactly what we're talking about, to stitch together what I think the vision was at that time, and this was about a year ago, so it could be old, that they go in and work to get lots that are ready across the entire region. So I don't know if you've talked to him yet.
I just met with him yesterday,
Okay.
actually, and he is still doing that work. He is hosting Region 9 housing meetings every Friday,
Right.
And it's good representation from the region and CHAFA. But yes, he has been compiling information on each one of the counties and jurisdictions in the region of potential developments that stalled, and so he's got a lot of GIS and maps around that too, and La Plata County is kind of a missing component in some of his data collection, so I think there's really good opportunity for us to be able to contribute more.
Madam Chair, is that meeting something you're going to be active in on a consistent basis?
I am, yes,
Okay.
I'm going to it every Friday
Okay, good.
at 11, and of course, I think anybody who's able to attend can, so.
I noticed there's a chat. Is there anything that we need to?
That actually might be. Is the thing pop up? No.
I commented on the logo stuff, but that's it.
Okay. Mike?
I think the work Shaq is trying to do is coordination along the 5 counties, not necessarily getting down to policy of planning and code.
Okay.
I think it would be very beneficial for the RHA to have an opinion for the participating entities of what a consistent policy would be to fast track. And as I've talked to Chuck about fast tracking, he's very interested in doing it. He just doesn't have the capacity right now in any way, shape, or form. But perhaps we could do him a favor by pulling in Kevin short term, and not to burn his cycles, but maybe giving Kevin the opportunity to provide opinions along the way, so that when a full-time planning director is onboarded, there's enough of a framework and structure for that person to adopt or tweak or what have you. But I think it will be a requirement, and probably one of the largest obstacles for our community to get in line for 123.
But I can say to that point, as part of, and Mark, I don't know with your IHOA application to DOLA, House Bill 21-1271, where did Ignacio identify potential qualifying strategies to adopt? But one of the requirements for the DOLA monies from 1271 is that you adopt out of their qualifying strategies list, you have to amend and adopt at least one of those, if not 2 or more, into your code policy regulations. And so one of the strategies that the city of Durango has committed to is processes efficiencies for development review. So we have committed to that. City Council and our Joint Planning Commission meeting met last week. We identified in our work plan that is a high priority for us, not only in community development, but within the housing division, as well as our development services manager. So we are currently, we've created a cross-functional team that exists of myself, engineering, our community development director, our development planning manager, services manager, as well as utilities, as well as public works. And we are currently navigating mapping processes to actually get us a creation of something that will navigate this by November.
Well,
And it's,
And council just gave direction on Tuesday to staff to combine the planning commission, design review board, and adjustment, board of adjustment, for the same purpose, is to create efficiency. So we're definitely moving forward in that.
we are definitely moving forward in that.
Yeah, in Ignacio, if I
One comment I
could
would,
make-
go ahead, Mark, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to follow on Eva's explanation of what the city of Durango is doing. In Ignacio, Mayor Craig was the chair of our planning commission, and we adopted a new land use and development code in January 2022. And in that process, we created a PUD, planning unit development process, which didn't exist previously. So in my application, and what I envision is through that PUD process, we will be able to streamline submittals and get that through a fairly normal approval process where we get to try this out, and hopefully through the Catalyst Fund or with our IHUE project, we can do that. But I think we can expedite stuff. And that was my explanation to the grant criteria, that we believe we have streamlined our process. So we'll see how that plays out.
And Bayfield did the
Sure.
same. When I came on, I did a series of code changes, and we did streamline our development process by dropping one whole planning commission or board of trustees review. And so staff can do the final review if it meets everything that and is consistent. And then we're also, and this will go hand in hand with wanting to meet with Mark and Eva, is we're also looking at incentives for affordable and attainable housing projects and what we can do in Bayfield. And so I think, going back to what Eva said, I think it is, I also like the idea of coming up with a set of criteria that we use across the region on how we determine affordable housing projects and who gets incentives or grant funding, Catalyst funding, Prop 123 funding, and we just have this like menu. If they meet these qualifications region-wide, it just sounds like an easy process for all of us to be on the same page. And then the other thing I just wanted to add too is, I don't know if it's possible, but Prop 123 funding, if the RHA even can apply for that funding for the region. And again, I say that because Bayfield being a small town and us trying to divvy up these funds to different projects, whereas if we had RHA or the Catalyst group being able to divvy up those funds region-wide versus us trying to do it municipality-wide, I'd be interested to see if that's a possibility.
That's a great suggestion, Nicole. I mean, that's synergy right there. And for technical resources, for not each of us having to navigate that, but align and channel it through to the RHA, again, how do we look at what is the RHA, what is our role? I mean, this is starting to kind of speak to maybe where that's going, so.
Just a note, when you use the PUD process, there are many people in the development community that I don't think folks on the government side are aware, but they call it Code Plus, meaning it encumbers or it makes the process slower and worse in many municipalities or many jurisdictions, because there's a plethora of options, right? And so, with straight zoning, it's a lot simpler process. So I just caution you that I think the intention for most is the PUD makes it more efficient process, but it can be used as a tool for just the opposite. So just be wary of that.
I'm so glad you bring that up. That developer feedback has been received, and for our cross-functional team, our case study is specifically for that purpose.
Well, I'll mention that Code Plus came up in a discussion with Darryl Price 20 years ago.
But just
Usually define PUD for those.
Planned unit development,
Right, yeah, that's great.
which allows flexibility, but that flexibility sometimes comes with unintended consequences.
So we're using that as our case study, for our cross-functional team, with utilities, public works, engineering, housing, planning, all in the same room. It's been, learning a lot from each other.
Are there any other things about Prop 123 that we should be discussing, or any actions that we want to take, next steps, anything like that?
Well, I guess I would just formally say, I don't think we need a motion, that support you doing this work. I think that what I've learned about policy is that it's, we can get really deep really fast. And so when you're, like I think you're gonna have to put up the red flag if you say, analyzing all of our codes and figuring out where that is. I mean, if we're gonna really truly be regional, then how do the four of us play with these issues? But I really support, since you're doing it anyway, this work. And also, don't forget, we're gonna have a bill dropped in the legislature that we're all tracking on very carefully around what would be required, potentially around densities, especially as it relates to, close to municipalities. And so we'll have to really look at how that plays with what we're talking about. And I'm curious how that bill would play with 123. And I'm sure people are talking about this. This is the governor bill. Yeah, so yeah.
Well, Nicole and Mark, if you guys are okay, can we kind of have like I wouldn't even call it a committee, but can I just channel, as I build sort of this matrix of information, kind of continue to both keep you informed and vice versa?
A happy hour, is that what you're calling it?
Oh. Housing happy hour. Nicole, does that sound good to you?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Look forward to working with you both.
Thank you, everybody. So we have no presentations. Member updates, Town of Bayfield.
Okay, well, let's see here. We have a new trustee, Kyle Wolf. We had a vacancy, so he was appointed on Tuesday night. And so we have full board until April 2024. So anyway, that's what we're doing. I think that the east intersection is probably one of our big focuses right now, with the East Bayfield annexation, what we call the Pine River Commons annexation. Cinnamon Heights is on that end of town, and then we have Mustang Crossing. So we'll have a lot of housing on the east end. We've really got to get that signal in with CDOT. So
Yes.
That is going to be our challenge, is to fund that that intersection, that lighted intersection, and slow traffic down, for heaven's sake. So coming into town. So.
Katie, where's that? I got asked by a constituent for us to weigh in on that. That's why, we're happy to write a letter, or put it on an agenda so we can decide. But where does it fit on CDOT's prioritization list?
Well, it did not make the 10-year plan.
Okay.
For some reason, I heard all about it, but it wasn't on the TPR list. So August of 2020, I got it on the list, but it's unfunded.
Unfunded, but it's still on a CDOT priority list.
Well, it's on a list. Yeah, it's on the 45-year list, not the 10-year list.
Okay.
But we don't have 10 years to wait to evaluate it. $3.3 million is basically what it's estimated at, and that will explode that area. Also create better school district circulation as well, up to the north side of the schools that are on that side. It's going to be quite a traffic jam. In an area that's just not very good for traffic, on Commerce in Colorado. So.
Nicole, did you want to say anything?
I think also, so we are going to do a public meeting on that intersection, as Katie's talking about, but also we, and I think this might be talked about by Pat soon, but we did do a letter of intent for the transformational grant for Cinnamon Heights, and we were invited to apply for that one. And then they stopped the acceptance of letters, so we got in just in time. So we will be applying for 2.8 million by the end of February. To Division of Housing is the one who's overseeing this grant process. So we're working on that as well, and fingers crossed, because our engineering's pretty much done. So our next step is getting money so we can start the infrastructure in the ground. And and then we just, I'll say we just continue to get a lot of development inquiries and housing. A lot of projects that are interested in doing housing. We have one that is a mix of housing and commercial, and they want to do, it's right now they have about 70 units they're looking at as townhomes, and they want to do 100% deed restricted, and that's not even the town requiring it. And so we're trying to figure out how to partner with them and look at some grant funding to help get that cost down so that they can get those deed restrictions. So that's an exciting one as well, and that one's moving forward. It's already in the planning process. So.
That would be marvelous.
Yes.
Kristen, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I don't think I have anything on top of what they have already stated. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. City of Durango. So, Eva, do you want to talk about what we presented to City Council around Three Springs, Durango Crossing, Fair Share? Do you want to talk about those things?
Yeah, those are some big things. Let's see. Yeah, so Housing Division provided a housing partnership update on Tuesday, and primarily focused on sort of our top three, I would say, projects that sort of have had a lot of momentum recently and activity, and wanted to give council an update on those. Three Springs is around our partnership with
GRVP.
Thank you. I think I always
What was that? GRVP LLC. That was like Rand or something back in the day.
Yeah.
Venture Partners or something like
Yes,
that.
yes. Around potentially expansion into the area called Village 2, which is several hundred acres of land. Part of that would be expansion of the Wilson Gulch, the Drive Road?
Wilson Gulch, yeah.
Yeah. And so part of the update, the City Council has been working in conjunction with the city, GRVP, and a consultant, Dake Advisors. And so there was a very good report put together for City Council on the outcomes of that and where the partnership is going. Part of that as well was an update around applying for a DOLA grant through House Bill 1271, potentially to do that road design. If we aren't awarded funding from DOLA, we did earmark funding and plan for that in the housing budget for 2023. It's a couple $100,000 for that. If we are awarded the DOLA monies for this project, we did ask funding from DOLA for $544,000. For that actually gets us to 100% construction drawings, which was not anticipated for this project. And so those funds would leverage that to a much more robust outcome for this. Part of the report identified the school parcel that was quite large, as well as the parks and the park area that was, I know you're probably more into this. And so part of the concept that everyone's welcoming themselves around is the land trust model. And happy to meet with you offline to do kind of 101 about land trust model. But what that would provide is basically a land donation of about 10 to 15 acres that we would then do affordable for sale product for traditional local workforce, multi-generational income earners in the ranges of 70% to 120% area median income. We've been using Elevation Community Land Trust as sort of our case study. They were part of sort of the consultants and interacting with Stefka Banshee. Stefka has opportunities with her entity to also do down payment assistance. so they can actually get some of the 70% down to 60%, as well as bridging up to almost 140% AMI with additional funding sources. So would be really excited. It would be unique to Durango, sort of again, a new opportunity that I see as our housing landscape grows. And so that was really exciting to share with council. And as well as city-owned property off of Florida Road, which is right around 1500 Florida Road.
Basically the intersection of Florida and 250.
Yes.
Yeah, so it would become a four-way intersection. That place is for people where that actually is.
And back to the land trust model, that could equivalent to, I think we said about 180 to 250 units approximately for a for sale ownership product in those ranges. And so that was just one of the partnerships that we highlighted. And Tim provided a lot of really good statistical data around the Three Springs development and a lot of history.
Yeah, he's kind of he is the walking history book of Three
He
Springs.
sure is, yes, I learned a lot from him with that. So the city-owned properties would be, we're issuing a notice of award to the lead developer, which is Durango Crossings Partners, which is a development team consisting of a lot of Durango native folk around residential and commercial mixed-use components to that. Leveraging city-owned properties with the adjacent landowner is giving us the opportunity to have a more mixed income community, where if we had only used city-owned assets, we could potentially just have about 50 to 60 units developed. This is allowing for a community development of 130 units, which commitment from the developer would be at a minimum 50% of their rental product, as well as their ownership will be ranges of 70% AMI to 120% AMI as well for that. So 130 units potentially for that particular project. And then we also highlighted working with Group Policy Research. They submitted a proposal to help the city amend and update our fair share ordinance, inclusionary zoning, as well as barriers that we have in our code for affordable and attainable housing for below market product. And so we have signed a contract with them. The project will begin March 1st. We're anticipating at least about a 7-month process. There'll be lots of opportunities for public outreach and stakeholder meetings, as well as going before city council. The deliverables from that will be particularly code changes that would be recommended, as well as policy structure for incentives for developers that are willing to work in partnership with the city on a baseline potential incentive structure, as well as an enhanced incentive structure that we'll be creating around this for outcomes for rental, because we'll be including rental development into our inclusionary zoning to become compliant with House Bill 21-1117. That's another strategy that we're adopting in the same year, as well as processes efficiencies for review this year, which is kind of a big milestone Tuesday night. And the DOLA grant award that we received to help offset that, so we're not tapping into our revenue streams to cover this cost.
Question on the school site in Three Springs, where does the school district stand on that?
Negotiations and conversations are active.
There you go.
Is that a good answer?
And just for the benefit of everybody here, the agreement, the original development agreement, was to donate at no cost 40 acres of land to Durango schools, plus pay full school impact fees, so both. And the need, as we know, the demographics are changing, and so the need is not quite the same as it was maybe 20 years ago.
What again is the units at Three Springs potentially?
I'll double check the unit count that I had in my staff report.
234.
No, but just.
No, for the land trust model,
Just land trust.
I think it's 180 to 250 units of for sale ownership.
180 to 270.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was close.
that's good.
180 to 270. Thank
This
you.
could make a dent between that and, everything that's happening.
And then also Best Western, which would be another 120 units.
Mm-hmm.
That will be 60% AMI and less for rental product. And so I actually didn't get a chance to illustrate that for city council, but that is a full rainbow in our housing plans, exactly to the T in those projects. And I think you knew that.
Yeah, well, and I just pointed it out because
Sure
there's
did.
some concern about that.
I know. I was
So,
always surprised by that. But we're also putting together an annual recap report. Last year, I provided an annual update to City Council. This will be an encompassing report that will talk about projects were approved, acreage, annexation. Nicole put a fabulous report together for the town of Bayfield, Nicole. Good job. And so City of Durango is looking to make something similar product that will be put together by end of next week. We anticipate using that to help inform the panelist discussion for the Eggs and Issues event, so we can highlight accomplishments as well as work plan initiatives and strategies around housing solutions to address housing shortage. I'm not using the word crisis, to address housing shortage in our community. So I'll look forward to sharing that with City Council when that comes out as well. We're also doing a Best Western press release in conjunction with Project Moxie that'll be coming out, I anticipate, later next week for an update.
excellent, thank you.
And we hired a housing coordinator.
Well, you now
On
have,
Monday.
you now have an expanded department.
I have an expanded department, yes.
So I just wanted to mention briefly, the city council is having a retreat on the 14th, 2 half days. And what we're discussing, so normally our strategic plan is a strategic plan conversation the last 2 years, but we developed a strategic plan 2 years ago. We fined it last year, feel like we're on the right track. There's not really much that needs to change. So we've kind of changed that focus to what are our top priorities in the coming year, coming 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. What do we want to see happen? And identifying a few of them, not all of them, because we could be there forever. But for example, if housing rises to the top, which currently it is in the top priority for our strategic plan, then we talk about what magnitude of funding, and I may have said all this before, but what magnitude, I think it bears repeating, what magnitude of funding is necessary to make a housing program, overarching housing program, effective and make it happen. So is that, and how many units is effective? Is it 200 units a year, 400 units a year, 600 units a year? Is it 2.5 million a year, 5 million a year? How is it? And so you look at the magnitude, what's needed. And then we'll take those top, say, 3 priorities. I'm not saying there's 3, but we'll take the top priorities and look at all the magnitude of funding for those very top ones, and then start looking at methods of funding. So what's the vehicle? Is the vehicle an additional sales tax, which has been very, very popular in the state of Colorado and around the United States also for funding of housing? So would that be the way to go? So it's a dedicated fund. It might be time limited, so it might sunset, which would give people confidence that we get something done, and then if it continued on, do we re-up it kind of thing. We take the 2005 sales tax that sunsets in 2026. Half of that goes to Parks, Open Space, and Trails right now, and that half is about $2.5 million. The other half is paying off the Florida Road and the library bonds. So that we consider an infrastructure half of it, and is housing considered infrastructure? Maybe. So would you, instead of doing a sales tax dedicated to just housing, would you, when you re-up the sales tax to 2005, would you say half of that goes to housing? Is that the best way to do it? Or does that need to go to the city campus and the police station? That's why we have to come up with these priorities and what magnitude of funding do we need, and then what vehicle funds them. So it's going to be a pretty impactful conversation, because it'll drive where we go and what our focus is, particularly as we look at elections in November, and then the following November, and then 2 years from this April when we have another city election. What elections come up? What things do we put on the ballot? We know BID is doing a mill levy increase request. And I believe in November. I thought they were going to do April, but I think
I think it's a continuation of the mill levy, not an increase.
They're not going to ask for the increase?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I think they're asking for it to be continued.
Okay, because Tim had originally said a probably increase, but
Yeah.
is that in April?
It is. No, it's in November.
In November.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And there's a possible library district question, and then there's a possible lodger's tax for the county question. The other thing the city's talking about is the possible change to our lodger's tax allocation also. So you don't want, like, if we have 3 things on the ballot for housing, they're all going to fail.
That's right, that's right.
And if you approve one, but it's not of a magnitude to actually fund housing, then you're not going to be able to get approval for the one that's the magnitude of housing. So this has to be a very strategic plan so that we do end up with the magnitude of funding that we need. That's my Ignacio.
Hello, Mark. I've talked to him today.
Well, I want to thank Pat for keeping up the matrix of all our projects, and on the matrix, we have our 3 projects. We did submit a $2 million grant, IHUI grant to Division of Housing for our Rock Creek infrastructure project. So hopefully we'll hear in March funding on that. We're pretty much shovel ready, and as we talked earlier on the Catalyst Fund, that project would be a great sample run for moving for entitlements and engineering work. So I'll work with Jen Lopez and Sarah on that. So we're excited about that. Mary, you want to talk about the school district discussion?
You want me to?
Yeah, I think that's all I had.
Pretty excited. So
Housing side.
probably about 5 years ago, we started conversations with Ignacio Public Schools to purchase the L5 facility,
Yeah.
which is the old original middle school and grade school. And I think we are presenting an actual offer tonight at the school board if the superintendent so wants to put it in front of the school board.
Nice.
So all of this discussion over time, and I think we are pretty close. If they tentatively approve tonight, we could actually approve Monday night.
Nice.
And that could be a finalized deal. That's about 15 acres, I think, downtown. I can't remember the exact, no, it's only about 9 acres. And, but that's a great opportunity for lots of different development, from commercial to housing to new facilities for the town. So a lot of opportunity there.
River.
Well, it's as close as you can see.
the river.
Yeah. So we did offer a land swap with the tribe, and they have been totally receptive to that, so that we could actually create a full park down there on that riverbank.
Oh.
But we'll just keep asking.
Was that a trust land parcel?
I don't think so. I think it allows us the opportunity. We talked about the south end, which is actually Rock Creek down there. It's about 17 acres, swapping both, that's up to Indian.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, all I know is if it's trust land, it is just impossible. It's impossible to get land into trust, and it's impossible to get land out of trust. It's as the tribe calls the white tape.
Doesn't it take an act of Congress?
Yeah.
Doesn't it take an act of Congress?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's possible.
And you don't just.
Yeah, it is true, yeah.
So anyway.
You know, facetiously, you mean literally.
No, it really does. Yeah.
The one
it would
thing I
take an
was
act
gonna
of
ask
Congress.
Eva, so.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and one other thing I was going to add.
The project behind Home Depot.
Yeah.
So we've seen that come up over the last month, and it's just fascinating. Is there any way to get a tour or something in there?
Yeah, that would be great for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nicole, have you done your tour yet?
I have not, but I have 3 offers to get tours, so hopefully soon I will.
Can we piggyback?
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
talked about that too.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add.
Yeah,
What makes it interesting is modular.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need to look at how that looks.
Manufactured.
Yeah, can we coordinate, Nicole, if you are like, okay, tour?
Yeah.
What
I would
I
love to
heard
go on
is,
tour.
I'll say what I heard is we might want to wait till the building B, because building A, they're still actually learning some of the intricacies of doing this type of project, and that they'll probably have it pretty down for building B, and maybe we can see how things
And
connect
building,
together.
yeah, the way the city wrote the agreement to secure the 14 rent restricted units, building A will be, their market rate units first, and then building B and C will contain the 14 rent restricted units. Not that they're gonna look any different, but that's just kind of how we structured that agreement to kind of help them get those leased up and kind of get some income coming in before the rent restricted units kicked in. But yeah, we can try and coordinate something.
I'd really like to see it before they button out all the corners and
Mhm.
the junctions and stuff, and just, and maybe there's some mistakes, and we can all learn from that.
Yeah. Well, and like Nicole, did you want to share too, like when we were talking at the Catalyst Fund, this really wasn't, because they got the modular units out of Boise, Idaho, there was quite an expense to have those delivered here.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really a cost savings at this particular time, but what it did do is it saved significant time
Right.
on the production side of things
Yeah.
for them, which speaks volumes for, you know, financial and navigating all of these components.
Well, not only
So-
that, but we don't have a labor force here in the.
Exactly.
So the labor force is
Exactly right.
Boise, it gets built in Boise and.
You know, I had a pretty good conversation with Mike Fouts, who's the head of FCI, earlier in the week about the project, and I'm curious as well. And, you know, he said exactly what you said, is the transportation costs from Boise. I mean, diesel spiked almost at the time when that stuff had to be delivered. He said, breakdowns or weather, you know, everything, all these units have to come in sequence and they have to be staged in sequence. So if you get somebody delivering late, it throws the whole schedule off and the costs go up because you have the crane down on site, et cetera. He said that putting the Legos together has been pretty good. And there's about an inch, between each modular built into the, kind of the area, you know, to combine them. That obviously you can get it, built a lot faster, but he said the biggest thing is I couldn't get a framing crew to save my life here to build a multifamily unit. And so, you know, his group has built a lot of the larger multifamily projects around here. So, sorry I'm jumping in, but that was one of the things I wrote down, and I'd love a tour as well.
Yeah.
Well, Mike's the one I talked
we're
to
playing
also. I'm sorry, Mike's the one I talked to also, and he said the same thing, Pat. And he said it's kind of breaking even in terms of the modular versus what stick built would have been, and that includes the transportation costs. So if we can get modulars closer to home, then we will see a price decrease. You know, when they're coming from Boise and it's the same as stick built. So I thought that was interesting.
And yeah, so Four Corners, Capital, are based out of Steamboat Springs. And they have several other projects that they're doing throughout the state, all using modular, construction. They're in the I-70 corridor, kind of Eagle, Glenwood, Summit County ranges. So, yeah, pretty neat.
Okay, well, Plata County.
All right, I think I gave our reports where, once we get our community development director on board, we're looking at our code. Good idea, we can see what Kevin's availability is. He's got lots of other stuff he's working on, but in terms of plugging in, it's immediately like, here's a packet of your to-do list.
He's kind of a one-man department.
We've got a pretty big department, but it's just, you know, he's doing a lot of process improvement and that kind of stuff. And we've got some really, really big projects coming through, including a giant solar one that you're gonna hear about, in addition to other ones. So he's hit the ground running. I want to tell you about a couple interesting conversations. We are also, as you know, submitting under the Innovations Grant for Westside. So looking at that, that one, that one is the one of our three that went forward. So
$3 million.
I don't have.
Was it original?
It was original. I think it went, I don't have your spreadsheet right in front of me, but,
Okay, you can check that out.
there is a property called the Coal Ranch property, and I by no means am speaking for anybody here, but it might be worth a conversation, and I let Sarah and Mike know this. So when you go past Elmore's on the right, there's kind of a beautiful, little property. It's owned by the Forest Service. They are interested in workforce housing for because like everybody, they can't get seasonal firefighters and all of that. So Nick Liddon is the new Columbine District Ranger and talked to us this week at EDT. And so they want to put bunkhouses and 3 tiny homes there. And I said, and it's free to them because they own the land. So I said, would you be interested in a conversation about increasing the density? It takes, it's got some barriers because CDOT would require at least $1 million, like a CDC lane. So, I don't know if it's worth the conversation. They can also do a thing under federal law. I talked to John Whitney about this, where they would deed the land to somebody else. So it wouldn't be the Forest Service developing it. There's a thing in federal law, you probably know about this, where, you can take a piece of Forest Service land and then you, I think it takes an act of Congress.
President Obama signed it.
Yeah, you can say this land has community value beyond, they were going to put a headquarters there that didn't ever materialize. That's why they even own the property, and that headquarters went to Bayfield. And so anyway, Sarah, if this is something we can have a conversation about, I think the next step would be have a meeting with Nick and John Whitney. I'm happy to be there. Jen Lopez has been tracking on this for years. But I don't know, I think the first question would be, what could be the density there? You know, what do they need? And then could you put 6 additional units, or if you're doing tiny homes, could you put 10 additional ones, or, I don't know. So
Is that on South Durango Sanitation District?
No, it's farther past.
Farther out, so,
yeah,
you know, we've been talking about all these possibilities
right?
in that area.
I know.
I think one of the things that the RHA might be able to be useful for is coordinating all those thoughts, bringing them together and seeing what that actually might create in units, so that then the conversation can come is how does water and sewer.
I think it's a really important long-range planning conversation, because you've got La Plata that doesn't come that far west.
Yeah.
Where does the city want to go with water? We had a conversation with Scott Shine at that recently. So.
What does that open up in the middle for further development?
Because there's that lot that was Frank Senton was looking at on the northeast corner of, the Elmore's Corner, 172, and that county road and 160. So we've got a lot of these longer term things, so.
And then,
So that one would be on a well. The Forest Service one's on a well. Yeah.
how do we do transportation?
Yep,
On that one.
I know. That's why we need to develop closer to the municipalities, I think. We've decided.
Well, right, but as close in as possible, but you're still
Yeah.
going to oppose that.
Yeah.
Because it needs transportation,
Right.
Elmore's Corner would need transportation. It's better if we can get the transportation.
Absolutely.
One of the conversations, speaking of transportation, that I have been having with Jose is about, with the lodgers tax in particular, is how do we apply more of that to transportation? Because the outlying hotels that are not downtown do not have bus stops. How do we get the clients, the customers, the hotel guests onto transportation so that when they come into town, because every single one of them now has to drive a car. So that's traffic and parking issues. How do we get them onto a bus to get them in town? And by doing so, do we also have parking rights on the outer edges of town so that people coming from Farmington, Aztec, Bayfield, whatever, don't have to drive all the way in, they can park and ride?
Right.
And I think that would lend, it's not just about tourism, it's also about our community and bringing people in and out of town. So that's where I'm really pushing on that concept.
Yeah.
I think it would be really helpful.
Yeah, and if there's more development happening out there, which it is, then how does the transit get extended? So that's one conversation. I met with Tom Stridicus this morning just to talk about a whole bunch of things, and there are housing things that are happening, but he's also interested in the big project concept and how they could plug in. Plus, they just are working with Homes Fund to do their help with individual home buying. So anyway, that was an interesting conversation. So that's it on our end.
Thank you. Patrick.
Well, I think we covered most of it. But I do like to offer anecdotal conversations that I have with people in different places in town. And I talked to a waitress at Carver the other day. And she said her landlord has been generous in not raising the rent the last couple of years. She lives in a 124-year-old house with 3 bedrooms. She pays $600 a month for her bedroom.
Wow.
And doesn't necessarily get along with her other roommates that well.
Right.
And that's one of the cheaper rents in town right now. So it kind of gives you an idea of the issues that real people in the trenches are dealing with. So.
I talked to a single mom who has 2 kids and going through a divorce and trying to figure all that out, and lives in a house way out in the county. And I think it's $1,200 a month, and what keeps her up at night is when the rent's gonna go up. So yeah, we have to keep these stories top of mind.
Marcia, I have a question for you. Does the county have kind of a plan or an ETA on, requirements around short-term rentals?
Yes, we are, I think, we have not taken a vote, but I generally think there is policy direction support, this is not a vote yet, okay, of, essentially going to a higher level of regulation, probably licensure. So what we are gonna do is form, we're gonna tee this up, have a work session on it, and then what we're gonna talk about is process, because it had been thought, an idea had been booted around before about getting some kind of a task force together that could study, you know, what are other mountain towns doing? How are they regulating it, da-da-da-da-da.
That's a perfect example, right?
Yeah, I know that, and I'm just like, I don't know that we need to study it that much, I think that could be 2 meetings. So I think that's the direction we're headed, is to have something on, first a study session, secondly, go to an agenda and see, and take public comment on, do we do licensure? And so not raise the question about if, but this is where the commissioners want to go, and then it becomes how, and then they would bring various models back to us. One of the incredibly concerning things I heard about is in a subdivision here is people without the regulation, which we're really headed for, I think, is that people are coming in buying stuff up. There's a house in the county that has 9 units, and they're just running it like a hotel, and they get a residential rate. So we're doing that.
Well, they're not paying lodger's tax, they're not paying.
I know, exactly.
And they get a residential property tax.
Right. If you're listed, if you are an STR and we can find you, you do pay lodgers. That does go into our lodgers, if we can find you through, the software that we use.
Right. So, and what's so frustrating is we always get this, there's 1,000+ units of STR in Durango, and we're like, no, there's 124 in Durango. The rest of them are in the county.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting how people don't understand that.
Yeah, no, we're headed that
Good.
direction.
I'm glad to hear that, because that'll, if you can manage it, well, it can help with the affordability.
Yeah, so I want the task force to be looking at how would you manage it, and what are all the mountain towns doing, and how do you get them to register, and what, somebody was telling me recently in other states that you go to the, STR, and there's a posted saying on the house that this is a licensed STR, and it says exactly like, make sure trash is picked up, and, stuff like that can really, because where we hear it is not only the lost revenue, but also on neighborhood complaints.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you guys all hear it, it's like bears and parking, can't get into your garage, you can't get into your driveway, it's all the same stuff, so.
Well, and I think, that would speak volumes to the community when we're talking about housing and where are we going. I mean, so many of the other mountain communities have, lessons learned, and folks are, really leading those efforts. And CAST, Colorado Association of Ski Towns, has already done
The
that database
I looked at the
for you.
database.
With like, are they charging, what are they charging for the tax? Are they charging an excise tax? All of those things. Do they have a percentage cap? Do they have a unit cap? What does that look like? So that the task force could hit the ground running on like actually what those regulations of licensure would look like versus spending the time to like hash through the data and all that.
The other thing that we're probably gonna see state legislation to change the assessment ratio. And last year we couldn't get there on it, so much disagreement, but that's okay. I mean, they knew, our lobbying group knew that this was gonna be probably a multi-year thing. And that way we can at least be collecting at commercial rates. So that'll help.
And by doing that, that's how you identify the STR.
Yes.
Because that would definitely onus on the property owner to report to the county and the state what's going on, and then you get that information.
Marcia, would it be just licensure, or as well as capped?
The cap would be, we have to figure out that policy question, for sure, very important. Yeah, I'm not gonna weigh in on that yet, but I think we have definite agreement for licensure. We haven't talked at all among the commissioners and public about what you guys think of a cap, but that is part of it for sure,
And you might just need to know how many approximately are there.
Yeah, we do know that.
You do know that number. Is it over 1,000?
Last time I saw it was 700 something. Which was actually fewer than I thought. But, that's on the list. So we frankly had to get our oil and gas regulations, now they're to the planning commission, right?
hopefully the next.
Yeah, draft two.
I
It's
know.
on our website just 2 days ago. So that has been a giant lift to completely rewrite our oil and gas, and now that that is at least closer to coming to reality, we can start on MPRs.
Excellent.
Another easy topic.
Absolutely.
Thank you, anybody. Is there anything else that we missed or we need to discuss? All right, so next meeting will be at the Innovation Center, FYI. So let's just,
I'm just curious, how was the audio in here, having been online from the Innovation Center?
Mark, how's the audio?
Yeah,
That's been
audio's
very good.
great.
Yeah, it's good.
Thank you.
It's a good location, just, it is good.
and the Innovation Center, the audio doesn't work so well.
Well, that was the last time we were in a half circle or something, but,
And we were real far away from each
yeah,
other.
I just want to keep this on that.
Mark, is there a big difference between the Innovation Center and here? In terms of audio?
Much better here with the chamber audio.
Ooh,
Smaller room.
Yeah. And it's.
I like it
And we're not as far apart from.
yeah. I like it better, but just pretty much.
May need to carpool.
Yeah, parking is an issue.
Yeah, that's true.
I usually ride my bike.
Yeah.
We can check on availability. That may also be, but we can check.
Okay, might be harder.
Yeah.
Why don't we meet at Home Depot the next meeting?
Build a house in the parking lot.
Sure.
So, if there's nothing else, then I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Your schedule and maybe.
So, Aaron, Linda.
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good.
So,
Oh, good, I am so sorry.
Mike, I sent you my son's resume. I would like to.
Got it, yeah, thank you.
Definitely do it again.
Take a note of that.
I got some info from the.
I appreciate any help on that.
so.
The fact that,
To make sure,
Durango,
what am I collecting, am I getting bigger questions, I can kind of.
Excavated milling is looking to hire.
Okay.
You would ask about.
I'd be a little lower end.
The balance is.
So what do they do?
They've got 3 machines, big machines. It's a little known fact, but they're the largest specialty milling.
Okay, that's why I was like, I went 6